So that's part of the problem of the trial status, is this cockiness that begins to develop in late spiritual adolescence. At the same time, this whole cockiness has to be spanked. All right? So he ends up getting spanked by God. That's Colossians 3:25. It doesn't only occur when you stop using 1 John 1:9. It also occurs when you're growing and getting cocky, even though you use 1 John 1:9. God spanks. That's Hebrews 12:5. All right? And so he starts to become weak. Things happen. Things start to go wrong. They don't go wrong a lot, but they do happen. And so his weakness growth is manifested in many ways where he cannot answer, or he still feels threatened by some of the smarter arguments against Bible he's not yet learned. So because he's not learned them, he starts to become combative. Well, God has to spank him for that. It really hurts. But at the same time, this weakness makes him less a prey for the falsehood, because the combativeness on the one hand is something he's not supposed to do, but on the other hand it's a sort of protection. So he's weak, and yet, and that's illustrated by being combative. Okay, he's combative because he doesn't know what to say. But at the same time, it becomes a reaction that protects him against all the stupid falsehoods that he's going to become aware of and hear. His first reaction, even though he doesn't know how to reply, is to say no to it. No, 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 no. You know, adolescents are like that in human maturation too, because they're trying to find an independent answer. They don't want to just give in anymore like they did as kids. So that's a sign of weakness, but it's also a sign of protection. Weakness is always a protection in the plan of God. Okay, so now we get to the fourth row of boxes. You'll notice that all throughout there's more coloring in that's going I should have said that at the outset. Katarizo, afereo, dagnumi. Dagnumi is the main actor verb of this phase. Is operating, because it's all about pointing out meaning. And dagnumi will characterize adulthood also. Plaso is completely filled in because the word is completely filled in, but not the box. And some of dikaio is filled in because there's a vindication of the Bible that's going on in the guy's mind, in the believer's mind at this stage. So as you can see, he's operating on more of the wholeness of the spiritual life. As a result, the consuming Bible is complete. The words are filled in because he's doing that as a habit. Spiritual skills, he's operating on those as a habit, so that those words are filled in, but not the box. The thought pattern is constantly operating. Relationship to God is really half started, because that really starts to bloom in adulthood. The love growth, the love is turned on, but it's not really developed yet. Trial is turned on. The weakness growth is started. So now we come to the fourth row of boxes again. And you'll notice that abiding functions, that is filled in gold now. Not the whole box, just the words. Because it's a habitual use. He's habitually using verses. He's habitually praying. He's habitually studying Bible. It's become natural to him to do this. It takes a lot of distraction for him to stop. So therefore, the curiosity, of course, that's the main characteristic of adolescence. The abiding desire to know Bible more is burning at this point. So those words are filled in, but not the box. And then abiding development, desire to know Bible growing, desire to know God growing. There is a transition which begins to occur in adolescence, especially in its last stage of doctrinal orientation, where the desire to know the Bible for the Bible begins to give way to the desire to know the Bible to know God. See, as a child, you want, how do I want to put it? It feels good to be a Christian as a child. And that's really why you stay in it as a child, because it feels good. Well, you got to grow up from that to wanting to really know what it says. And the Bible is about God. But as a child and even in early adolescence, it becomes the Bible for knowing the Bible itself, because you don't even know what it is yet. You have this vague idea of God, and somehow the Bible is about God, so you want to know the Bible, so it ends up shifting into knowing the Bible for the Bible. And God kind of gets tucked in the background. Well, you got to grow out of that too. Okay, the reason to know the Bible is the thinking of Christ. Old Testament is his thinking as God. New Testament is his thinking as human. And you got to learn that. So in the latter stage of adolescence, as you get the big picture and you see the doctrinal orientation, and you begin to relax about yourself not being perfect and everything else not being perfect, but God is perfect. And his word is perfect. So now the Bible comes to represent God, which it really is. And you begin to see that. So his desire to know the Bible now becomes a desire to know the Bible in order to know God. So it's not in order to fit in with other Christians. It's not in order to feel good. It's not in order to be smart about Bible, which is really just ego. It's about knowing God. You want to know the Bible so you can know God. And that's a major transition, major trial victory, major weakness growth that's occurring, and it's building in your seven-faceted house of thinking. As a result, you have a good bit of abiding plunder words completed. But again, it's still functioning. The whole box is not completed, so it's not colored in yet. The Bible is desired and recalled. This becomes a habit throughout the day. The Bible is reasoned and it's found to be making sense. That too starts to become a habit throughout the day. And above all, you start to enjoy it. You actually enjoy the content and the meaning for itself. That leads to, again, the abiding victory, which is God's view. It shifts from learning the Bible qua Bible to learning the Bible to know God and God's view. And that again becomes a burning question in adolescence. Because it becomes a burning question, there becomes this abiding intimacy that you really kind of go overboard, especially in the very last stage of adolescence. You pray all the time and you study all the time, and in fact you're probably going to start to study too much. One of the biggest problems of adolescence and adulthood, especially adulthood, is that you go overboard with the Bible because it does represent God to you. And so you feel like you're not touching God if you're not studying the Bible. And again, I cover that in DDNA 2 HTM because it's one of the major problems of adulthood is to go overboard. Not only does it make you obnoxious to everybody around you, but your own life becomes imbalanced, and it's a major hurdle to overcome. And that hurdle begins in the latter phase of adolescence, if you're positive. In spite of all those problems, an abiding compatibility is rapidly building because you're learning the word avidly. Again, probably too avidly if you're gung-ho for God, and now it's God becoming more important because the word represents him, which it really does. That's still building the compatibility despite all the problems. The Holy Spirit is building you so fast. You're shooting up and growing so fast that you really are becoming compatible. But it's all structural at this stage. Just like in physical adolescence, it's very gangly. It's very awkward as far as what you can see on the outside. You don't recognize how quickly you're growing.